I'm Sabrina Zainal, and this is Nightline, the top stories. 4 PPVs in the Klang Valley to provide walk-in booster dose vaccination services starting Thursday. And Umrah trips to resume beginning February 8th. Good morning. 4 integrated vaccination centers, PPVs, in the Klang Valley will provide walk-in booster dose vaccination services to adults aged 18 and above starting Thursday. The 4 PPVs are the World Trade Center in Kuala Lumpur, Axiata Arena in Bukit Jalil, Ideal Convention Center in Shah Alam, and Dewan Soka Gakkai in Klang. In a statement on Wednesday, the Health Ministry said the decision was made to increase the rate of the booster dose intake, as well as to ensure that more people in the Klang Valley get optimal immunity protection against COVID-19, including the threat of the Omicron variant. The vaccine given at the 4 integrated PPVs in the Klang Valley is the AstraZeneca vaccine. However, the Pfizer vaccine will also be provided for certain individuals, such as pregnant women who have received an appointment or individuals who have contraindications to the AstraZeneca vaccine. Individuals who wish to walk in to get the booster shot must ensure that their digital vaccination certificate in the MySejahtera application is complete to ensure a smooth vaccination process. As of January 25th, more than 11.1 million, or 47.5% of the Malaysian population aged 18 and above, have received their booster jab. The Customs Department's revenue collection for 2021 had reached 42.5 billion ringgit, surpassing the initial target of 40 billion ringgit set by the Finance Ministry. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the year had also seen an outstanding performance of its enforcement team when they busted an international drug ring and seized 16 tons of drugs worth 5.2 billion ringgit.
Dengan prestasi sebegini, saya amat yakin JKDM akan terus bergerak maju sebagai economic frontliners atau petugas barisan hadapan ekonomi yang berupaya memacu pertumbuhan berkualiti dan positif bagi keluaran negara kasar ke arah menyuburkan kemakmuran keluarga Malaysia.
Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said this after officiating the launch of the 40th International Customs Day at the Customs Department headquarters in Petaling Jaya, Selangor on Wednesday. At the same time, he said the expanding digital transformation through empowerment of data, culture and ecosystem theme was very relevant to the current situation and in line with efforts to modernize the department's services and operations.
JKDM perlu memastikan segenap warga kastam celik digital dan sentiasa bersedia untuk mengadaptasi transformasi teknologi semasa dalam membina serta membudayakan ekosistem data.
The Prime Minister added the government had always supported the department to stay focused on combating smugglers' activities, strengthening border controls, and facilitating trade towards higher revenue collection. The Cabinet has decided to allow Muslims to resume Umrah pilgrimages from February 8th. Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri said the decision was made on Tuesday as the government did not intend to extend the postponement period of Umrah trips, which came into effect on January 8th due to the spread of the COVID-19 Omicron variant. According to Datuk Seri Nancy, a new standard operating procedure, SOP, would be available after discussions with all relevant stakeholders, including Umrah travel agencies. This is to ensure that the returnees will get to decide where to undergo their quarantine period. On January 1st, the government announced its decision to temporarily suspend all Umrah trips over fears of the high number of COVID-19 Omicron variant cases among those returning from Saudi Arabia. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said that a risk evaluation of the COVID-19 situation involving the variant at home and abroad, especially in Saudi Arabia, would be done periodically for the government to reallow Umrah activities. The Festive Season Maximum Price Control Scheme, SHMMP, for the Chinese New Year will be implemented from January 29th to February 4th, involving 6 types of foodstuff from seafood, dried food and pork categories. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Seri Alexander Nanta Linggi said enforcement of the Chinese New Year 2022 SHMMP will begin 3 days before the festival. The 6 types of goods are white pomfret, white shrimp, garlic, live pigs, pork belly, meat, as well as pork fat. In a statement on Wednesday, Datuk Seri Nanta said SHMMP is implemented as a measure to stabilize the price of goods and ensure the availability of supply in the market during the Chinese New Year season. He added this is due to the demand for certain goods is expected to increase during the period. He also said the ministry had collaborated with the Agriculture and Food Industries Ministry to ensure there will be sufficient supplies in the market and it will be easier for the public to obtain their daily necessities for the festival. Datuk Seri Nanta also reminded traders that stern action would be taken against those who failed to comply with the rules under the scheme, namely selling price-controlled goods above the maximum price and failing to put a pink price tag for price-controlled goods. Political cooperation between Barisan Nasional (BN) and PAS in the Johor state election will be carefully studied. Its Deputy Chairman, Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan, however, said that so far the majority of the leaders at the grassroots and divisional levels wanted BN to go solo for the upcoming polls. According to Datuk Seri Muhammad, who is also UMNO Deputy President, the top-level leadership will carefully study the matter before making whatever decision that is good for BN.
Kita akan kaji dengan teliti, tapi buat masa ini, majoriti daripada kepimpinan di semua peringkat bahagian Akaumbi mahukan supaya Barisan Nasional berseorangan.
He said this at a media conference after a meeting with leaders of state BN component parties at the Johor UMNO building on Wednesday. Datuk Seri Muhammad also called for a united front among the BN election machinery, as it would be vital for the coalition to achieve a victory in this election and gain 2/3 majority. The Johor State Assembly was dissolved last Saturday to pave way for the state election to be held. The Election Commission will hold a special meeting on February 9th to decide on the nomination and polling dates. In the meantime, the component parties in Pakatan Harapan PH on Wednesday announced that they will be using different logos in the upcoming Johor state election. Its chairman, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, revealed the matter was decided by the PH Presidential Council in a meeting at the PKR headquarters in Petaling Jaya, Selangor on Wednesday.
Tentang logo, kita dah putuskan persetujuan bersama untuk gunakan PH. Dan lain-lain parti, oleh keadilan. Jadi itu untuk keadilan yang lain.
Datuk Seri Anwar said PH is set to contest in all 56 state seats in Johor, adding that the coalition is still open to talks on the possibility of cooperation with the newly registered party Muda. However, it has yet to decide on how many seats would be allocated to Muda. On PH's Menteri Besar candidate, he said the opposition pact had yet to discuss the matter as they were focusing on allocating seats among its component parties. Earlier, it was reported that Simpang Renggam Member of Parliament Dr. Mazdi Malik and Pulai lawmaker Datuk Seri Salahuddin Ayub were said to be the potential candidates for PH's Johor Menteri Besar post. After spending almost a week at the National Heart Institute, IJN's Coronary Care Unit, CCU, former Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has been transferred to the normal ward. His daughter, Datin Paduka Marina Mahathir, in a statement on Wednesday, said this was because her father's condition had improved. Now, she added that based on the assessment of his doctors, the Langkawi Member of Parliament was recovering well and was given the green light to move to a room at the normal ward. However, both Tun Dr. Mahathir and wife Tun Dr. Siti Hasmah Muhammad Ali are not allowed to receive visitors at the specialist healthcare facility for the time being. Datin Paduka Marina and her entire family also thanked everyone for praying for Tun Dr. Mahathir's full recovery. He was admitted to the IJN last Thursday for a follow-up treatment after undergoing an elective procedure on January 8th. The repair and restoration works at Lestari Perdana Bandar Putra Permai in Seri Kembangan, Selangor were expected to be completed within a week. Petaling District Officer Datuk Johari Anwar said works were carried out to install piles at the area to avoid recurrence of the incident.
Saya difahamkan oleh pihak Jabatan Kejuruteraan bahawa kejadian yang berlaku sebelum ini berlaku di sebelah hujung yang berpunca daripada mungkin air larian bawah tanah.
Datuk Johari told reporters at the scene of the landslip on Wednesday that authorities viewed the incident seriously and were working closely with several agencies to identify the cause of the landslip. He also said that works to install steel piles to reinforce the bank of a large drain near the location of a landslip were being carried out by a contractor appointed by the Subang Jaya City Council, MBSJ, since Tuesday night as a safety measure, as there was still ground movement in the area. A discussion would also be held with the council to decide on a long-term solution to the situation. 17 commercial premises operating nearby the area also had been instructed by police to temporarily seize their operations until the situation was deemed safe. In the 6:38 p.m. incident on Tuesday, 5 vehicles were damaged. However, no casualties were reported. Moving on, a total of 35 individuals comprising 28 retired judges and 7 dependents of former judges have filed a lawsuit against the government and 3 others over their failure to fix appropriate increase in the pension and benefits received by the plaintiffs since 2015. Also named as defendants in the suit filed by their lawyers at the Kuala Lumpur High Court last week were the Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers and Public Services Director General. According to the originating summons, the plaintiffs were aggrieved by the unconstitutional situation of their non-adjustment pensions, which were protected under the federal constitution. The plaintiffs, through their solicitors, also sent a notice of demand to the government on September 17th last year. However, there has been no response to the notice. The plaintiffs are seeking a declaration that failure to fix through a government gazette an appropriation increment of more than 2% in their pension and other benefits pursuant to Section 15B, Bracket 2 of the Judges Remuneration Act has violated Articles 125, Bracket 7 and 125, Bracket 9 of the Federal Constitution. The plaintiffs are also seeking an order that the Prime Minister or Cabinet shall advise the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to fix a higher increment of more than 2% annually on the pension and other benefits given to them, effective July 1st, 2015. They said the situation resulted in a judge who was appointed before January 1st, 2014 to receive a lower pension. Among the plaintiffs are former High Court Judge Datuk Mah Weng Kwai, former Court of Appeal President Tan Sri Alauddin Muhammad Sharif, and former Chief Judges of Malaya Tan Sri Haidar Muhammad Noor. Drug trafficking syndicate busted with the arrest of 4. Details after this breather.
Affordability. What to look out for when buying a house. Can a buyer expect a defect-free house? The bill then sell 1090 concept. How safe is it for buyers? Would the proposed Residential Tenancy Act put an end to tenancy woes? All about house buying on Money Matters this Saturday with National House Buyers Association Honorary Secretary General Datuk Chang Kim Lung at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
Welcome back. Police smashed a drug trafficking syndicate following the arrest of 4 people, including a couple at Seberang Perai, Pulau Pinang, between last Thursday and Saturday. State Police Chief Datuk Muhammad Shuhaili Muhammad Zain said that in the Op Tapis Khas operation, authorities also seized an assortment of drugs worth nearly 2 million ringgit.
Hasil risikan mendapati pengedaran dadah ini ataupun sindiket ini telah bergiat aktif sejak tahun 2021, awal tahun 2021 dan dipercayai menggunakan pasaran tempatan. Jumlah keseluruhan dadah yang dirampas boleh digunakan oleh seramai 187,638 orang penagih dadah.
According to Datuk Shuhaili, the couple were arrested in 2 separate raids at Bukit Mertajam on January 21st. This led the police to 2 other men who were arrested separately in Butterworth 2 days later. During the operations, police seized various types of drugs, including shabu, ketamine, and Aramin 5 pills, worth a total of 1.99 million ringgit. Besides the drugs, also seized were 8 vehicles, jewelry, and cash, all amounting to 1.3 million ringgit. All those detained tested negative for drugs, but one of them had a previous criminal record. 2 of the suspects were remanded until Thursday, while the rest were remanded until Sunday to assist police investigation into the case under the Dangerous Drugs Act. Meanwhile, in Johor, 2 local men believed to be involved in drug trafficking activities were arrested, along with drugs worth almost 2 million ringgit in 2 separate raids in Johor Bahru and Iskandar Puteri on Sunday. State Police Chief Datuk Kamarul Zaman Mamat said the 2 men, aged 31 and 34, were detained in a raid after the police received a tip-off through Op Tapis. Datuk Kamarul Zaman said the 34-year-old suspect was detained in a vehicle in Kumpas with methamphetamine weighing 4.06 kilograms and 1.1 kilograms of ketamine, while the 31-year-old suspect was arrested at a house in Nusa Bestari with methamphetamine weighing 37.5 kilograms and 6.1 kilograms of ketamine. Also seized were 5 vehicles worth 225,000 ringgit, 1,500 ringgit in cash, and jewelry worth 65,000 ringgit during the operation. It was believed that both suspects were from the same syndicate and have been actively distributing drugs since last year. The suspects also tested positive for methamphetamine and had previous records related to drugs and crime. The duo were remanded for 7 days from Monday. The case is being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act. In Putrajaya, a broker was remanded for 5 days by the Magistrates Court for allegedly submitting false documents in connection with the procurement of 6 littoral combat ships, LCS. The remand order beginning Wednesday was issued by the magistrate Shah Wira Abdul Halim to facilitate investigations into the case by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC. The 62-year-old suspect was believed to have submitted documents containing fake details estimated to be worth 24 million ringgit in relation to the procurement contract of the LCS to a shipping company through 3 companies. He was arrested by the MACC at its headquarters in Putrajaya on Tuesday night after he was summoned to give his statement. The case is being investigated under the MACC Act. On November 21st last year, a report was lodged with the MACC concerning a 9.128 billion ringgit project to construct 6 LCS, which failed to be delivered as scheduled. Last Monday, the MACC detained 2 chief executive officers in relation to the case. Philippine police do background checks over Duterte hints at corrupt presidential bets. This and more when we return. we're back with the foreign front. U.S. President Joe Biden would consider personal sanctions on Vladimir Putin if Russia invades Ukraine. Speaking to the media, Biden said there would be enormous consequences for the world if Russia made a move on the nation, which sits on its southwestern border.
There will be enormous consequences if he were to go in and invade, as he could, the entire country, or a lot less than that as well, for Russia, not only in terms of economic consequences and political consequences, but it'll be enormous consequences worldwide. This would be the largest, if he were to move in with all those forces, it'd be the largest invasion since World War II. It would change the world.
His comments came as other Western leaders repeated warnings that Russia would pay a heavy price for invasion. Russia has accused the U.S. and others of escalating tensions over the issue and denies planning to enter Ukraine. However, Moscow has so far deployed an estimated 100,000 soldiers near the border, and it's continuing the mass transfer of troops and equipment into its neighbor and ally, turning up the heat on Ukraine. Over in the Philippines, background checking of presidential aspirants for the 2022 national elections is ongoing. In confirming the matter, the country's national police, however, said it is not up to them to name names, as their work only involves submitting reports to their superiors, which they promised to do to ensure clean elections. The response comes after President Rodrigo Duterte's latest remarks that the most corrupt candidate is seeking the Malacanang seat, saying that he would name the most corrupt of the presidential bets before the May 9th polls. Duterte said that this is part of his obligation as head of state. Previously, the president declared that one of the candidates really cannot be a president, while another candidate can be elected but is too corrupt.
Most important to the early conclusion.
The United States Coast Guard has launched a search for 39 people who went missing after a boat believed to be used for human trafficking capsized off the coast of Florida. According to authorities, officials were alerted on Tuesday over the incident after fishermen rescued a man clinging to the hull of a boat about 72 kilometers east of Fort Pierce Inlet. The survivor, who has yet to be identified, said he was part of a group who left the island of Bimini, Bahamas, on Saturday night. The boat they were traveling in was hit by bad weather before capsizing. It was said that none of the passengers wore life vests. At the moment, the search is being led by the Miami Coast Guard sector using ships and aircraft. Tsitsipas, no match for Sinner. Action from the Australian Open after this short break. Let's tennis the Australian Open. Stefanos Tsitsipas kept his Grand Slam quarterfinal record perfect with a straight set win over Jannik Sinner on Wednesday. Tsitsipas proved to be too strong for Sinner as he cruised to a 6-3, 6-4, 6-2 victory for his fifth major quarterfinal win. The fourth-seeded Greek will face the winner of the later quarterfinal match between U.S. Open champion Daniil Medvedev and Felix Auger-Aliassime. Tsitsipas has one win in his previous four semifinals at Grand Slams at Roland Garros last year. In the women's category, former French Open champion Iga Swiatek improved on her stellar record against players ranked outside the top 30 at Grand Slam tournaments with a 4-6, 7-6, 6-3 win over Kai Kanepi to advance to the semi-finals. The 36-year-old Kanepi is ranked 115th, but was playing in her seventh Grand Slam quarterfinal and was coming off an upset win over number 2 ranked Aryna Sabalenka. Waiting for Swiatek in the last four is American Danielle Collins. Collins swung the match in her favor with a key service break in the final game of the opening set on her way to a 7-5, 6-1 quarterfinal win over Alizé Cornet. It was also her 11th match win in a row this season and 12th overall in January. Collins is the second American into the semi-finals after Madison Keys sealed her place on Tuesday. The loss for Cornet, meanwhile, ended her strong run, who played her first Grand Slam quarterfinal and her 63rd main draw appearance. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look at migratory sea turtles equipped with Bluetooth beacons that were released into the Indian Ocean at Saint-Leu on Réunion Island. The beacons will be able to transmit temperature, depth, salinity and conductivity data in real time, especially in areas close to the eye of cyclones, which satellites are unable to cover. I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, stay safe, Malaysia.